We're on. Welcome back to What You'll Learn. My name is Adam Ashton.
And my name is Adam Jones. Right now we're doing chapter 13 from Robert Greene's book, The Law of Human Nature. Advance with a sense of purpose, the law of aimlessness. Unlike animals with their instincts to guide them past dangers, we humans have to rely on our conscious decisions. We do the best we can when it comes to our career path and handling the inevitable setbacks in life. But in the back of our minds, we can sense an overall lack of direction as we are pulled this way and that way by our moods and by the opinions of others. How did we end up in this job in this place? Such drifting can lead to dead ends. The way to avoid such a fate is to develop a sense of purpose, discovering our calling in life and using knowledge to guide us in our decisions. We come to know ourselves more deeply, our tastes and inclinations. We trust ourselves, knowing which battles and detours to avoid. Even in our moments of doubt, even our failures have a purpose to toughen us up. With such energy and direction, our actions have unstoppable force.
This is a great chapter on purpose, and I think it's the most tangible, most actionable, most realistic advice that we've read on this sort of topic from books. We've read a lot about, quit your job and follow your passion, which is unrealistic. We've talked about the downside of following your passion, but this is saying this is the importance of having a purpose, having an aim, having some longer term thing to guide you throughout your life and your career.
So to soothe the pain from our aimlessness, the opposite of having a purpose is really aimlessness. We enmesh ourselves in various forms of pleasure and kind of short-term gains.
Yeah, it's all about where the aimless, like having a purpose, is having something long-term that we're building towards. And if we don't have that, then we just revert to short-term pleasure, which is not beneficial to the long-term whatsoever.
Now, the only solution to the dilemma is to find a high sense of purpose to this aimlessness. So it's a mission that will provide us our own direction, and not only and not that of our parents, friends, or peers, what they want us to do. And this mission that we find is intimately connected to our individuality, the part that makes us really unique.
Yeah, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. said, "We have a responsibility to set out to discover what we are made for, to discover our life's work, to discover what we are called to do." So I think it's a good way of talking about, not just quit your job and follow your passion, but it is important that there is something deep within us that makes us unique that we need to be striving towards.
So you need to go out there and find it, and it's not bloody easy at all. But once you hear the voice and you find it and you understand what your purpose is and why you're really here, there's no going back, right? The course has been set. Deviating from this course that you've found, that's going to cause anxiety and pain.
Yeah, it's a bit like the book we did, the Tao Te Ching, saying that if you're doing what you're meant to be doing, then it feels good. If you're relaxing on the beach, you might think, all I want to do is lie on the beach and drink cocktails, and that's going to be pleasurable. After at first it's good, but after a while you realize there is actually pain there because you're not doing what you're meant to be doing. You're either not following the Tao or you're not following that sense of purpose.
Now, Robert brings it to earth here. He says, in the not so distant past, people's career and life choices were pretty much limited. You choose, I want to be a lawyer, and that's it. Your course is set, you go up the ladder, and that's it.
And it's also like you're pretty much restricted to a small geographic location as well in the past.
But, today, obviously, there are huge changes. It's very hard to find stability. And people go about it with two different techniques. One strategy is to just embrace all the change and keep jumping from job to job. And, you take the smorgasbord of opportunities of what you can. And the other way to do it is to really choose stability in this chaotic world, and you choose the one career path and try and be safe.
Yeah, unfortunately, both of those both of those yield problems later. In the first case, if you think, there's so many opportunities, I'm going to try everything and jump from opportunity to opportunity, from job to job, you're really not developing any solid skills. Like in So Good They Can't Ignore You. You're not building career capital. You're not making yourself rare and valuable. And alternatively, if you do go for that stability and you commit to something in your 20s, then in your 30s, you might think, I missed out on all those opportunities, and now you're feeling a bit lifeless almost, and that you've missed a lot of opportunities, and that midlife crisis might be a bit of early onset.
Yeah, and the pain that you feel, you might get bored, you might feel anxious and stressed, and then over time, you might feel depressed if you're inclined for aimlessness and without this purpose. So, all of us want to believe that there's some meaning and calling kind of thing to our lives, and that we're connected to something much larger than ourselves.
Mate, thankfully there is a way out. They're not the only two options we can take, thankfully, because otherwise we're not looking so good.
Yeah, this is very practical advice to find your purpose. It's an overused phrase, go find your purpose, go find your calling or whatever. This is probably the only book that has some kind of practical kind of advice on how to actually find it. And what he says is each human is radically unique out of one-of-a-kind DNA. So the particular way your brain is wired and the experiences that you've had that are really just unique to you, and the experiences that no one else in the world has had. So there are some things about you that make you you, and you're unique to the rest of the world.
And that's what we need to connect with, obviously. We need to cultivate this uniqueness, because it does provide a bit of a path to follow, not an exact step-by-step, but an overarching, I guess, guide. And he talks about a few examples, like Steve Jobs when he saw electronics, I think when he was 19, and he just had this in a pull towards it. Or he talks about even Tiger Woods when he was 2 years old, saw his dad practicing his golf swing in the garage, and he, as a 2-year-old, lit up, and that what drove him, this inner drive, this inner uniqueness that drove him towards success, and later some personal failures. I think he's on his way back at the moment.
He's back. He's back, man. But that's it. You got to find out what your uniqueness is, and then have that as your internal guidance system. There's other chapters where you might be in this book where you're pulled by the group and you're so influenced. Like, you really want to avoid doing that and find out what makes you you and follow that. Yeah,
most definitely, man. He talks about that if you are young, because we do have so many opportunities at the moment, it's up to you, if you're just starting out, to experience all these different opportunities and bring in some of these different experiences, absolutely, when you're young. And if you're older and listening to this, you have already developed a lot of skills. So you need to recognize that you do have a lot of skills, but it's up to you to now sort of mold them a little bit and adapt towards the direction of your true calling.
Absolutely. So do not bypass this work of discovering your calling. It is work. It's not easy to go and find this. You can't just wait for it to just magically just pop up in your life. It requires proactive effort on your half.
Yeah, he talks about some of the things that we need to do. So we need to examine moments in our life when certain tasks or activities felt natural or felt easy for you. And he used the analogy of like swimming downstream, like swimming with the current. If you're swimming against the current, it's going to feel labored, it's going to feel tough. But if you're swimming with the current, it's going to feel a lot more natural and comfortable. And that's the type of feeling, he says, that you get when you're getting closer to discovering your calling in life.
Yeah, that's it, man. So that's one way you can find it. And experimenting with all the skills and options in the world related to your personality and inclinations, he says, is not only the single most essential step in developing a high sense of purpose, it is perhaps the most important step in life in general.
Wow, that's a big call. He also says that we should use resistance and negativity to spur us on a bit. So most people try to avoid pain, avoid doing things that they're not good at. But Robert Greene says that sometimes frustration is a sign that you're making progress, because you're getting to do things that are bigger and more complicated and tougher to achieve, and they take higher levels of skill which you're yet to attain. So if you are on the right path, things are starting to get difficult. It's almost like that dip where you're in the middle phase there, where you realize that there's a long slog ahead of you before you get to mastery, and that sometimes there are these negative things that you're not going to be good at straight away, but that can be a good sign that you're on the right track.
Love it, man. And mate, there's so that's all from the internal guidance system to pull you toward what your purpose is, and then you're going to go through the dips and all that kind of stuff, like you were saying. There's also the lure of false purposes, which is really an external thing that really drives you. And he's got a whole list of them in the book, but the most popular one and most common is definitely the pull of money and success.
Yeah, if we're looking to money or success or status as a motivator, as a purpose, then we're definitely on the wrong track. So it could be that we've had external pressure, parental or peer pressure, to go towards one way, but he's saying that anything that's external is wrong, especially this money and success, because in the long run, it definitely doesn't get to where you want to go.
At the very start of your career, if you're just chasing money when you're fresh out of uni, you're going to just enter the fields that make the most of the money the fastest. And this is one of the biggest mistakes you make in the pursuit of money. Rather than cultivating the parts that are unique in you and you're experimenting with all the different gamut of things that are available in the world, you just choose the highest paying job. So you narrow your whole field into one thing, which isn't going to really, in the long run, pay off at all.
I think there's a ceiling there as well, that maybe at first you might be making a lot of money, but if you're not truly engaged with it, you're not going to be doing the things that are required to get towards mastery. And so whilst you might make a lot of money at the start, there's definitely a ceiling to it where you're never going to get to the really big success, or the really big internal success really that's guiding you.
So it's similar to he says, like, hyper intention. He relates this pursuit of money and these external goals quite similar to the pursuit of trying to fall asleep. I know this from personal experience. I've had fucking horrible sleeps in the past where I'm trying to fall asleep, and as soon as you start trying, you're cooked.
Yeah, when you get that idea that I've got something really important tomorrow, so I really need to get a good night's sleep, and when you're trying to sleep, it's almost impossible to sleep. And then it's just like a vicious cycle where then you get more stressed that you're not asleep, which makes it even harder to get to sleep. So the harder you're trying to get this, the less likely you are to attain it. So that's what he talks about money, that at the start, if you're just striving for money, you're really never going to get to the money that you seek.
Many of the most successful, famous and wealthy individuals, they don't begin with an obsession about money and status. It comes as a byproduct of them just following their sense of purpose, and through their sense of purpose, they do obtain mastery and they do obtain those rare and valuable skills, and then money kind of just follows them where they go.
I think we can even talk about Robert Greene himself. The first book he did almost 20 years ago now, The 48 Laws of Power, was definitely not a mainstream book that was going to make him a lot of money. So he wasn't driven by money because, he's written a massive 400 or 500 page book with all these historical ancient examples in different sections, and he's got quotes throughout and different things on the side. It was like no other book ever seen before, and specifically no other book in the bestseller list. But what he did was he was following his own internal sort of guidance. That's what he wanted to build. And it was a bit of a flop initially, but over the course of 10 years, people started to pick it up and it started to spread. And then down the track, a decade later, he did achieve this financial success and sold a hell of a lot of books.
Purpose! Oh!